Well, I've just come across a new method of studying my Bible that I think I'm going to stick with. And it's making my reading of the Bible much more understandable, much more effective, um, and it's putting things together pretty well. I have tried different methods of reading the Bible throughout the years, and lately I've come across some YouTube videos where people use various methods of color coding verses or portions of verses as they read to try to kind of organize the thoughts and make sense out of the thoughts so that you can go back to them later as well and reread and re-understand what you read. And I think I've come across a method that's simple and yet effective. A lot of times people use color coding Bible verses or portions of verses, and they make it way too complicated. Too many colors. So you're spending all your time really trying to remember, okay, what color do I use for highlighting this kind of thought in the verses? And you waste a lot of time where your time really needs to be spent thinking about the verses and understanding them. And so I came across this lady on YouTube who basically she uses 4 colors. I added a 5th that I saw in another YouTube video. And what she does, and it's easy to remember, she uses, another thing before I get into that is what do you use to mark up the Bible? Number 1, it really helps to have a Bible that has a wide margin. They have various versions, but one that I really like, put out by, I think it's Zondervan, is called Journal the Word Bibles, where they have, this is probably at least 2 inches margin on the right-hand side, and all the verses are in a single column. And then if there's any references to other verses that might apply, it's on the inside where it doesn't impede you being able to write comments if you want in the wide margin. I had a New International Version, which I still have, and I like it in that it arranges the verses into paragraphs rather than verse, 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 verse. New American Standard, however, does it a single verse at a time, but still with that same wide margin. And I kind of grew up on New American Standard, so I'm used to that translation, and I really like it, and it's supposed to be one of the most accurate. This is the 1995 version. And so I recently, for $2.38, because I had some Amazon credit, was able to get this Bible. This is the New American Standard, Journal the Word Bible, wide margin. And even though it's not in paragraphs, that's not really a big problem. And now, what to use to mark the Bible, because Bibles, since there's such, so many books and all, they have to end up being with fairly thin pages. And so you try to get one that doesn't have the super, super thin. These are thin, but not as thin as some Bibles. So that when you mark it, it doesn't show through to the other side, or at least too much. Because you want to be marking sometimes on the other side, right? And so I have tried, I did some test. What you do is you do test markings on some less important part of the Bible. So they have a section back here with prayers and things like that. So I was trying different markers to see. I haven't really tried the actual highlighters, because everything I've read, they all say that the highlighters, the liquid highlighters, bleed through to the other side, even the best of them. And so I tried using this, which is a, let's see, can you see it? Here it is. It's kind of like one of those Bic pencils or pens, but it's with colored pencil lead. I think there's about 8 of them in there. And that works, but what I found works even better, because with this one you have to kind of press fairly hard to make the color show over what you're trying to highlight. But what seems to work the best at the moment are these Prismacolors. Prismacolor, I think Premier, Prismacolor Premier. They have a soft enough lead that easily glides over the writing without you having to press too hard. And I had bought this long time ago when I was needing some colors for other purposes. But the Prismacolor Premier is really nice, and you have lots of colors to choose from to get a variety of colors that will be distinct from each other. But I'm only using, I think, 5 different colors, trying to keep it as basic as I can. And so I used these pages to kind of test the different colors out to see which ones I'd be easily able to tell, say, the blue from the green and the red from the purple and all. Okay, and I finally found the colors that I wanted. And so anyway, this one lady on the internet, this was her system, and I've adapted it a little bit. Let's see, let me find the page again. Oh, here it is. This is my test page back here. And here's what she did, and I like it. Red means stop, right? And so you can use red to highlight things that the Bible tells you don't do this, or don't be like this, or things to avoid. Okay? This is Crimson Red Prismacolor number 924. Then, since you have a red, you need a green, right? Green for go. Green for go. That means go, do these things. These are things to follow, things to obey, things to do, as opposed to the red. And then blue, she uses just for things of interest. You know, things that she calls it true blue. Things that are facts that you want to remember, or things that were interesting or important to know. Blue. And then yellow, you think of sunshine. She uses to highlight things that the verses might say about God, about God's blessings or characteristics of God, or Jesus or the Holy Spirit that the verses bring out. And then there's another guy on YouTube who, as well, a lot of times when you're reading the New Testament, Paul or Jesus might refer to something from the Old Testament. And so he likes to see, you know, where things from the Old Testament are referenced in the New Testament. And so I've chosen to use purple. This is called Parma Violet. because I needed something different from all the other colors that would easily stand out. So I'm going to use violet to do that. And so it helps you to see how much of the New Testament actually refers to the Old Testament scriptures, and how the whole Bible actually goes together and fits together. And so purple. So these are my 5 colors. And so what I've done here is I've written them down so I won't forget. And then when I run out of a color, I know the Prismacolor number that color is, so I can go just get another one. And then I've written what the different colors mean. And so 5 colors, I can handle that. It's not too complicated, and it makes some sense. At first, what I was trying to do was use those colors, but these are more like fine-tipped pens. And I was just trying to underline verses, but you don't really notice them that much when you underline them. But I was trying to underline them with those different colors, but not as noticeable. They don't pop out of the page. But I can also use these if, let's say, I've highlighted something in what's this, blue, then in the margin, or I can underline it as well as highlight it to make it stand out even more. Or in the margin, I can write a comment about that verse or what that verse means to me in that same color. Sometimes I've used black, but if the color is dark enough, the yellow I probably wouldn't use the fine tipped because you couldn't see the yellow. I'd use a black pen. But I can also use these. For the primary highlighting, so I have here red, green, blue, yellow, and purple. Same colors. But I'll just use those to, maybe circle a word in that same color highlighted passage or make a comment. Okay, but the primary highlighting, I'll be using these Prisma colored pencils. And what's great about these is they will not bleed through to the other side of the page. And these Prismacolors, the lead is soft enough that it really is easy to glide and highlight the words without you having to press too hard. Some people use crayons, but then the waxiness of crayons, I don't think I'd like. Where this grabs the page very effectively, very easily. So I think I found my system. So I started today. So I have those in a little coffee cup. And what I did first was I did James 1 today. One of my favorite books is James, because it's practical. And so here's what I did. Let me see if I can zoom in a bit. Okay, so here's James 1. And let me see, I'll just use this as a pointer. Okay, so what I've done is, as I went verse by verse, I highlighted things in whatever color. So verse 1, things to do, green, right? Green means go. So things to do. So verse 2 says, consider it all joy, my brethren, when you encounter various trials. So that's something to do for you to follow. Be glad when trials come. And there's so much in there. Just the word when tells you that you are going to encounter trials. It's inevitable. consider it all joy, everything, all trials, no matter how bad they seem, can be considered good. And then the following verses explain why. And so I've marked some words here. The testing of your faith produces endurance, and so that you ultimately can become complete, lacking in nothing. For example, where do we gain our character traits? We gain them through the hard times as we go through them and deal with them. How can we ever become a patient person if we don't have experiences that make us impatient, right? The next verse, verse 5, there's another green I've highlighted because it says, if you lack wisdom, ask God. I'm paraphrasing just to make it shorter. So that's in green. Tells me what to do. If in these trials I don't know what to do, ask God. Couple of the next verse, it says, but ask in faith. So that's in green. Ask God, trusting that he's going to show you. But now, second part of verse 6, it says, ask in faith without any doubting, for the one who doubts is like the surf of the sea, driven and tossed by the wind, etc., etc. And down verse 8 it says, because you're a double-minded person. And so the doubting, the one who doubts, being double-minded, I've highlighted in the red pencil, because those are things to try not to do. Don't doubt. Don't be double-minded. And so on. And what you do is you don't highlight everything, because what's the point? You know, it's like when I was in college and you'd have a textbook and you highlight things and you end up highlighting everything, so nothing stands out. So what's the point, right? But just the things that stand out. Down in verse 12, I have another green. It says, blessed is the man who perseveres under trial. So that's another thing to do. So green. Persevere when you're in trial. Then a verse after that is in red. Don't do this. Let no one say when he's tempted, I'm being tempted by God. And it goes on to talk about how you're actually tempted. God doesn't bring these bad things on you. You do. Because we're all tempted by our own selfish desires. And that's what brings us problems. And so on. I have a yellow here, down on verse 17. Yellow, again, means things that it shows you about God or about his blessings or the good characteristics or what you can get from him. Verse 17 is in yellow. It says, every good thing given and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights. So it's helping you to remember that good things will come from God. And then down on verse 19, I have green, means go, means do. But everyone must be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. So you can actually highlight some of this in red, right? Don't be angry. Don't speak out of turn or when you shouldn't. Be quick to hear. But these are things to do. Be quick to hear, be open to criticism. Slow to speak. Don't just let things pop out of your mouth without thinking. And slow to anger. I like this verse especially because it deals with your ears, how you hear things. Slow to speak, how you use your tongue, your mouth. And slow to anger means how you deal with your heart. try to keep anger out of your heart. And so I have that verse in green. And then on the sides, for example, to the side of that one, I use that green fine-tipped pen to kind of just put the points of what it's telling me. Be open to criticism, be humble, be patient. On the side of where I highlighted in red, don't think that God's tempting you. I wrote in the red fine-tip pen, don't try to lie to myself to think God's causing my problems. Face it. It's my sins often that bring my problems on. And so on. And so when I want to review this chapter, I just look at the greens. Okay, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Remember all the yellows. Good things come from God, and so on. And so I think this is going to work. It's simple, only 5 colors. I have not yet in James run across any references to the Old Testament, so I haven't used my purple yet. And I think this will help. And I'm not worried about it showing through, because see all I've done on this page? It doesn't show through. Little bit when I use the black fine tip pen, it kind of shows through, not all the way through, but you can see the shadow of some writing. But it doesn't, I don't know if you can see that page, huh? See, here's the opposite side. And I have highlighted the rest of chapter 1, the things that stand out. But it doesn't show through from the other side. Little bit of a shadow here, but I can't really read what it says. And I can still write over it, whatever I want to write in this margin here. So I found my solution. Prismacolor Premier pens, or pencils, colored pencils. They're ideal for highlighting. They won't bleed through. And then I still can use these. These are Pigma Micron 0.05 archival ink. But anyway, they're these fine-tipped pens of those same colors. So I can still use those to make comments in the margins. And I think I'm going to love this method. Okay, just thought I'd share that. And I love this. This is called the, well, you can't really read it. It's just embossed. Let's see. It's the NASB, New American Standard Bible, 1995, Journal of the Word Bible. But pretty thick. Has to be, because, you know, they've reduced it to only part of the page is the text, and so it's going to be thicker than most Bibles. But that wide margin, when you have a regular Bible, and sometimes they give you 1/2 inch to, at the most, say 3/4 of an inch margin, you have no room to write anything. And what's the point if you're wanting to study and remember and learn and put down insights? You need space. And I like this Bible because it does have kind of chapters it's kind of like I don't know, what do you call it? The red letters in the New Testament where Jesus speaks is kind of a soft red. It's not that glaring red. But then it's kind of a maroon, darker maroon for chapter headings. So that's different. And I just noticed this morning that the corners are rounded, which helps. Because when you have just sharp right angle corners, they tend to tear, or they tear easily. Where this, I can turn the pages and they won't tear or catch on anything. So, I like it. Okay, so long. That's it. Almost forgot. As or after I've done my reading and my marking, I kind of summarize what I've learned on that day. I like this journal booklet. It's by Design Works Inc. But I found it at Barnes & Noble, I think, one time or somewhere. But it's standard issue notebook number 12. But what I like, it's spiral, which makes it easy to turn to the pages. I've used these for quite a while. But what I like about it, especially, just these little things make things easier, is at the top, they have each month of the year, each date of the month. So you can circle, like today I circled October 11th, and then I wrote up at the top Wednesday. And so you kind of know where you're at, or when you wrote this section. And so what I did today, as I was going along, but also afterwards, just a summary of the main points that I got out of it. So it's another way to record what you've learned. Now, the key is go and do it. Don't just hear it. Don't be a hearer of the word, as James said, but go and do it. Let these things affect your life and what you do. That's key. That's the whole point. Okay, now I'm done. Bye-bye.